Jack in the Box. That's
right.
There's always.
Gonna be a big one.
We got it down.
It's in the fridge.
Oh, I never dropped it. I thought I remember going to the other time.
There's some mints.
Where are you guys going? Oh, pretty. That would be beautiful. Yeah, shit. So clearly, it's the analogy for all of your teachers. Life degrees that have been conditioned vicariously. What time are you getting married at? 5:30. Well, it should be okay. Somebody else. Are you guys gonna go?
I feel like I hear so much.
No, we're gonna leave.
I'm like a public travel person too.
And
Like,
then,
ask a lot of questions that
right.
say you can do it.
Who is they?
And why? Your whole art classes, we're switching over to biology on this, and I always said,
Give me money.
got,
Give me money.
so we started researching it, and we said, and we're doing it.
yeah, for sure.
I feel like a lot of times, like races, that's how it's always done. Do it. Why?
I hate that phrase. Always done.
Yeah, I didn't want to buy it.
We have a new sixth grade teacher. She's in the sixth grade.
I skipped 5 and I was like, oh, you skipped 5 too. I'm like, that's 5. Never mind.
I know what was coming. Like, I was just like, let me just skim ahead to the end. All 5 of them are going to be gone and then still chat.
And it's just that teacher's still in our school? No. So why
Are there some things you do that you just do because somebody told us to do?
But it's interesting, it's the same thing, because somebody started it so many years ago, and it's just become like,
Starting more about
What's number 3? Whole baby's choice for what? Work?
right, that's what we need.
granddaughter, I'm sorry.
Yeah, making those changes. People like to distance it. I've always been, left-handed, right-brained, and I never got stuck into any brain. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like doing the same thing every year over and over again. Change is good for me. Otherwise, I get bored. Part of it is that I'm not always the most organized person myself. It's like, oh, change it around.
We had a warm-up. Whatever you've always done, it's just as your teacher did the same, but really question like, oh, is this the best practice? Is this the sustainable way for my kids to practice it?
Sometimes it's because it's always when it's bad. I was shocked. So I remember saying to a lunch here.
That's a new one. The old way was to bubble it in. The old one was to take it.
Say it like it
Like seeing stars, because you like seeing stars was like, yeah, and it was like, oh, this is an RTI program. Only seeing stars the whole time. They have these images, visually readily worded, they can't apply anything to text, and they're not making anything out of anything they're reading. And it's like, so seeing stars went from, that's what you must do, this is the best thing ever in the world, the earth, whatever, to that's a naughty word, you can't do this. I was like, she said in this operation, like, yes, we should be, nobody knows that they say, for seeing stars. Right.
It's all bad.
And you can't do it just to only intervention your day. You have to have something in your hand and you have to apply good strategies to tests.
And I think if you went down and delved deeper, you start studying says you're supposed to integrate that into what you're doing. Because isolation all the time. If it's isolation, it's not as useful.
So like something for us doing something else
Every Friday.
So it's like,
I'll be on Friday.
so it's like we're learning this new, we're
going to
Yeah, you don't wanna do that tower, you know.
There's things that I would have done that are beneficial, they are helpful, but you also need to bring in like.
Like back in the kindergarten, you know, we're all,
Exactly,
exactly, you don't have the same, time as everybody else, all the kindergarten teachers are all together.
That's what I'm saying.
Very positive in high school, so it's really nice, and it's we're all about change, you know what I mean, like, if we come up with new stuff, it's like, okay, just try it.
And as a kid, when you were growing up doing this, all the great sounds, my teacher was doing that in our guided reading, in our little
But
reading.
some of the examples that she brought up, I just
like lift
you
a
know, why are we,
making
you
it
know,
real.
just because we
I totally remember that. When I was starting to read sections, I was in the low group. That's what I remember. I can't remember what happened in her 2 nights ago. We're gonna get to the side. I don't remember a lot about
you got it good.
Like primary.
We all have the same.
I remember when you were like,
No?
like, I remember the time I was a little like, I went to the wedding and I left with my cousins to go buy a lottery ticket and they didn't talk about the door taking alarm, and so I really thought about they were like frantically searching the hotel for me, and I was like in trouble when I got back because I didn't tell them anything. See, oh, that's little random. I don't remember like stories.
And I'm just, I guess my first year, like, so like that sounds like, next year was not.
We're up to grade. Well, it used to make us during intervention.
Alright, guys.
Remember they would make somebody in upper grades and they're having.
So, do we get caught up in the trap of we've always done it that way? And if somebody does it different but ends up with the same result, does it kind of bug you? Like, oh no, that's not the way you do it. You ever try to not say it out loud?
Well, see, we're in the position, I think, I don't know, to change it, but we get so many changes annually, we don't know what's coming next anyhow. We're in the expectation of the banana's going to change to a pineapple, and it's going to change to a, and we don't know what fruit we're going to pick next.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, but how about at home? How about at home? Have you had any conflicts with somebody else because you do it one way and they do it another?
Yes, it's maybe with my mother-in-law, yes.
Oh my!
And we tell her every time, we cannot understand how our family lived for 30 years without doing it your way. We just don't get it.
How many of you drive the same way to work every day? How many of you try to go a different way? Just because?
Recently, because of all the road construction on the way to after 10 years, I am now for the first time ever realizing there's other ways I could drive.
I have, I know that I get, it's the same amount of miles pretty much no matter what I do. But I know that if I leave at certain times, it's better to go on the freeway because I get better gas mileage, right? But there are times when don't go on 99 because it's like crazy. So sometimes I come down Pine Street, but if it's too close to the start time at the high school, that's no good. So then I go down 25, and I really do think which way do I want to go based on what's, but it takes a little more what? Effort. It does take a little more effort. Right? There are things that we do that are rote, that are on remote control. And I remember one of the things I trained myself on early on was always to put my keys in the same place every time. Because I didn't have time to go look for them, and I wanted to make sure they're always in the same place, always in the same place.
But the other piece of that is you've got it in your brain, then that leaves more room in your brain to do other things.
That's correct. Okay, so if somebody does something different, does it make it wrong? We do think like that.
Like if they don't vacuum the way I'm vacuuming out, then
I want to with the grain, not across the grain.
in the same direction.
We want those aisles, those little rows of carpet.
How many of you raise your hand? Be honest now. We got a real honest answer in the back row. I don't know if it was recorded or not, but how many of you are okay with a few dishes in the sink overnight? And how many of you that would drive you nuts? Right? And so when I got remarried, it was kind of she didn't have enough energy really to fight everything, so it was just easier to go along, to get along. And I realized that my wife works hard all day, but before she can start cooking, she's got to do the dishes, and then she's got to cook, and then she's got to do dishes. Like, oh. And so I made a rule, because I didn't want the dishes in the sink anyway. And if you leave a dish in the sink, you're doing dishes for a week. Amazing how fast the dishes got in the dishwasher. And I remember I really made my eldest mad. And I said, Mason, is the dishwasher broken? No. Is the door stuck or something?
You can't fix everybody.
Is it too heavy to open? No. Well, I'm having a hard understanding of why there's dishes in the sink and not in the dishwasher. Oh, she got mad. But hey, guess what? The dishes are in the dishwasher now. Some simple changes. The other one was shoes in the living room. Shoes in the living room. Does it make it wrong if you're a shoes in the living room kind of person and I'm not? It does for me. Right? It's not wrong. It's just different. And some adaptations had to take place. When we always do things the same way, we're talking about the grandma that cut the ends off the pot
That's
roast.
what made me think of this. Why do we do it like that?
And she put it in the pan because it would only fit in the pan if she lopped off the ends. Then the granddaughter got married. I was talking about marriage over here, and she lops off the ends of the pot roast, and the new husband was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? You're wasting all this money and mood. What the heck are you wasting all this meat for? Why did you cut the ends off?" Because that's the way it's always been done. Even though she had a bigger pan, but that meat would fit fine. Do you find that you do the same things as your mom? No.
Yes.
Come on now. If you're going to bet, if we looked at your Christmas decorations, how similar they would be. And where you put them. You're like, oh heck no, Mom, you're on your own. I'm doing this. We got crystal, not cardboard. Come on now.
I probably do more like my mother-in-law than my mother.
We have a tendency to get caught up in that trap of always doing it the same way. Are there certain things in the classroom, aside from what the admin's asking you to do, that you've always done and you kind of just keep going with it because it works for you? And are there some things that you know other teachers are doing without tattling that don't work, but they just do it anyway because that's the way they've always done it?
You know, we have an issue like routine. Like teachers want their centers at a certain time, and then they want this group at a certain time, and we're trying to fit all these other things in. And when it's very frustrating when teachers are unwilling to be flexible because of this rigidity in their schedule, even though it's not in the best interest of their students. So turning it into instruction, you know, they need to change. They need to be flexible.
Is when they don't think about that. They think it's not in the best, or they think it's in the best interest of their students, but really it's not.
It's in their best interest. Exactly. It's about what's comfortable to them.
All right, how about this change? Technology. For some of you, has it been a tough one?
I just took that as their warm-up now.
The more veteran we are, the less embracing of
What
technology.
changes so fast, I can't keep up with it.
It does change quickly. And some of our young teachers say, all you have to do is this. I remember coming to Madera High School, teaching freshman English, and I was hired, I don't know, late July, I think. And school started in the middle of August, but there wasn't any training, there wasn't any orientation back in the day. It was give you your keys and we'll see you at Christmas kind of thing. But they did give me this nice big box. And I'm not exaggerating by telling you it was about 4 feet long. And it had risers, and it's in the box, so it's like a triangle, and it had all of these books and folders and cards and video cassettes, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was too much, right? So I did what I've always done. Oh, I know how to do this. I took the teacher book and said, let's go to chapter 1, and I will teach you this based on what's in chapter 1. And back in the day, they had at least the teacher's book kind of told you what you were supposed to do and where you're supposed to go and what you were supposed to say and how many days it was supposed to take to do it. And that's how I did it. I didn't know anything about all the rest of this auxiliary, and I didn't know that there was graphic organizer. I didn't even know what the word graphic organizer was, let alone that there was a workbook full of them. And, oh, and there's consumables for the kids. Consumable. I was lost. Lost.
Yeah.
Can too many choices make you also afraid?
Yes. Yes.
Right? We talked about my wife when we go out to eat, and there's too many things on the menu. She really doesn't like going to the Cheesecake Factory because
I just said that. I just said that. I literally just said Cheesecake Factory.
and she always says,
It
I'm
is
gonna have
it is.
chicken.
What's her point? Here's your
And I say to her, we have chicken every night.
It's such a huge menu. It is a good.
She didn't know what else to pick, right? And so, anyway. Okay, let's watch a video.
Essays that inspire.
You hear something a lot about change, and that is that people don't change because they're too lazy. I want to go to bat for the lazy people first. I think that what looks like laziness is often exhaustion. Let me tell you about a fascinating study in psychology. So picture the scene. Some students come into a lab, and it smells amazing. Somebody's just baked fresh chocolate chip cookies. And in front of them is a table, and on the table are two bowls. And one of the bowls has the fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. The other bowl has a bunch of radishes. Now, some of the students are asked to eat a couple of the cookies, but to leave the radishes alone. Another group of students is asked to eat several of the radishes, but to leave the cookies alone. Now, while these radish eaters are sitting there nibbling on this rabbit food, the researchers go out of the lab. They're trying to induce temptation. They're trying to see, will these radish eaters sneak a cookie? It's kind of sadistic when you think about it. But the radish eaters are strong. They resist the cookies. Not a single one of them sneaks one. And meanwhile, as you can imagine, that the cookie eaters don't experience the same kind of temptation to binge on the radishes. So, study appears to be over. And then both groups are asked to go on to a second step that doesn't appear to be related. It looks like a kind of logic puzzle, where they're asked to trace out a complicated geometric shape without raising their pencil above the paper. Unbeknownst to them, this task was designed to be impossible, can't be done. The researchers simply wanted to see how long they would persist in a difficult task. Well, so the cookie eaters, they try, and they try, and they try, and they go on for an average of 19 minutes trying to solve this impossible puzzle. The radish eaters, they last on average 8 minutes. Why this huge gap? Well, the answer may surprise you. The radish eaters ran out of self-control. After they were reining themselves in, resisting those cookies, they didn't have enough energy left to rein themselves in to keep doing a frustrating task. And this is something that psychologists have proven again and again. Self-control, in the broad sense of the term, meaning any time we're really monitoring our own behavior carefully, is exhaustible. That helps to explain some common things we all experience, like when we're at work and it's been a really hard day, and we come home and we're more likely to snap at our partners or to eat more than we should. Now, here's why all of this matters for change situations. Because in almost every change situation, what we're doing is we're substituting new, unfamiliar behaviors for behaviors that are older and more comfortable. And that burns self-control. So think of your morning routine, for instance. You have a way, a system for showering and brushing your teeth, and you've been doing it for so long it's unconscious, it's effortless. What if you wanted to redesign the whole thing from top to bottom? You could do it, but it would take tremendous self-control. You would have to monitor yourself every second of the morning, and by the time you got to work, you'd be mentally exhausted. What looks like laziness is often exhaustion. Change simply wears people out. Even well-intentioned people will simply run out of self-control after a while. To learn more about this very interesting research in psychology, come pay us a visit at fastcompany.com/Heath.
Let's forward that to the district banks.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
Is that why?
Teaching. I'm not going to do that because I don't know. It's just a template. It's a lesson plan. I can't guarantee. And she said she's that because she wants it so that when they walk in,
Okay, in your table groups, I want you to talk about these things. What changes do you see that need to be made in your new teacher? How are you going to approach this? How can you get your teacher to buy into the need for change? How can you help them with that? Talk about that in your table groups. Regarding your new teachers, what changes do they need to make?
This is really tough. Oh, yeah. She's a wonderful teacher. But she isn't very flexible in accepting feedback. If you provide feedback, I have an excuse or a reason, rather than just a process. Well, I didn't because. And, so I see that is, yeah, to be able to accept feedback for the purpose of growth. I wonder if she thinks you're criticizing. You know me. Do I ever sound like that? I see never easy, but never very good. Not even in ways to change things. Yeah, and that's people even in the it's an automatic resistance, and I think, you're just that's my yeah, you don't have the I'm Anna Carter. She's good. She doesn't have it's just like natural. She's very, very good, but I see this as a hurdle in her future. Well, I know. Yeah, we're going to have those. They're resisting. I mean, I was always going to teacher emails. I'm trying to do and that I do. And Wednesday or Thursday. So I don't know how and then he'll take it 8. Which one? And have that. Today for PLC after school at 3:30. I don't know how to breathe. And I see him walk to his car and drive by. He just fails on it. He did yesterday. After it took me like several days to nail him down which they were eating this week, and we didn't eat last week because it came to Wednesday. No, it came to last week, so that was this week. So this week he just didn't show up for a meeting. I didn't text and call and say, "Oh no, we're not meeting," and nothing. Then no, I want him to know. Then last week it was Thursday. So Thursday I said from now on, and I'll call the text messages. I think it was responsible, and I'll be like, "Did you get my text?" And he'll be like, "Yeah."
or you can like.
But just go in your email now.
It was like one of the most exercises.
And then respond, hey, you didn't come today.
Have something to start with.
But I don't know, it's really to help her. It's really helpful.
It's hard to watch yourself. Especially for article and that might
Is she meeting with you at least? A conversation? That's how she was. It's like this. Whoa. It's like, you can't make something.
Right.
I know. They either are an adult and being responsible. Own it. It's just a job.
But they had a student.
She doesn't plan on saying.
somehow when she observed, she's had him now that you can videotape it, different ways to do it.
They usually after that science training.
Mine's wonderful too, I just
And the other one, she takes so much time.
What are some changes you see that need to make general topic changes? Which could include rigor, engagement, assessment, data-driven instruction, what else?
Okay, I have a minor, I don't wanna say silly one, but, my person was a STIP and a PIP and all that, so this is her third year, and she had yet to call a parent, and I kept encouraging her, and finally she sent me a text, she was so proud, she called 2 parents, cause the kids almost fought in her class. And she said, it went really well, and I'm like, I told you it would, like, very few parents, are, but it's most of them, most of the parent contact I've made has been positive, very few have been yelling at me, but, like, buy into the change. Once she saw that she got a really positive response, she's more likely to do that again.
Good. What else? What else? What changes? We're going to come to the solutions in a moment. What other changes did you guys talk about?
Just getting mine to meet with me weekly and get his journals done.
Oh, that's your option.
Being able to stand up for themselves.
Oh, say no.
Yes.
Or even just if they have an opinion, to voice it. We were talking, we each had one that
It's easier to just go along with it and then close the door and
do something just do than to say, well, what if we tried this?
All right. Classroom management still out there?
Have they yet to start any class like that in the college program?
How do you do it? I mean, here's my theory, here's my thought, practicality of it. We don't learn something until we need it. I don't need classroom management while I'm still going to college. I could probably put that information in the file and maybe reach for it later. But honestly, of all the skills that we acquire as teachers, this one's on the job. It really is a school of hard knocks.
Yep, and that does push some out.
It does.
That's
Could
yearly.
they do a reflection or observation when they do their,
They do because they're doing student teaching when they're supposed to be running the class. However, if I came and student taught in your classroom, whose rules are we following?
They're already.
And they may or may not work for you. I mean, I might try what. Can anybody know Bill Coate?
Yeah.
Could you be Bill Coate?
No.
It works for him, but I don't think there's anyone else in this county that could do what he does to manage a classroom. And I remember watching with my eyes wide open, my jaw dropping. Sarcasm and insults, and those kids loved him.
He'd be written up now though if he was doing that.
I don't know,
He can't do
those
that.
kids loved him, but no one else could get away with that.
well,
Well,
he
that's
got to
true.
go on a
That's true, he would get
wagon
away
ride
with
for
it.
20 miles.
Cause he's Bill Coate.
If you talk to his students, they loved him. But he would rip you a new one with like 6 sentences. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, right? Whoosh. Worked for him, but wouldn't work for me.
So this year I had my come and observe me, because those are gonna be her students next year. And I have some doozies in there. And so when we got finished, I said, so what would you do differently to handle them? So we had a conversation about that, trying to get her to think about what she's going to do. Because she doesn't have her own class now, she's only co-ed.
Okay, so then that may bring us to our next topic here. How do we approach this? We'll get over here to solutions in a moment. But how do we get from here's the problem to here's the solution? How do you help your teacher understand this is something that needs to change?
So you're asking, how do we tell them that they need to change without telling them that they need to change?
Okay, so it depends on what that is. Like Duncan was saying, his teacher is kind of hard-headed and he always says, you know, my way works or whatever. Then you ask, like, okay, where's your data? Like, if your way works, then theoretically you would have good results, right?
Evidence.
Yeah.
Reflection and data is a great way, with that cognitive coaching kind of way, of helping them kind of see on their own. How does that help us with buy-in? If I'm identifying the problem, then all of a sudden I ask an important question. What question do I ask? If I look at my data, and I'm looking at you, the next question I'm going to ask is what? How do I? Right? And once your candidate can ask a how do I question, now you're golden. You can say pretty much whatever you want to say, right? Because now they're bought into I need help. But helping them understand that I need help, reflection and data are key. Now watch, what's interesting about data is that it points to the problem, while also we can use data to point to the solution. And why is that important? If we say that data shows that if you, how does that get you off the hook and help them own it? If I said data says you should, what does that tell you?
Oh, then it's not on me, it's on you.
And it's also not my opinion anymore, right? Okay, so a couple things I want to tell you, and we're going to talk about solutions in a moment. But a couple things I want to tell you. I'm thinking about, I just left my train of thought just right.
Walk back over there.
Oh, here's it is. Here's the first thing. First thing is this. I know that you're not here as part of our mentoring system because we're paying you a lot of money and you're saving up for retirement with the little stipend that we're giving you. Some of you are padding your resumes and hoping for a promotion, but that's like, most of you are not. Most of you are doing this because you want to help. You want to make a difference. You're nice people. And I like being with you because I think of myself as being a nice person that wants to help. I think we're all in the same boat. But nice people have a way of saying things that are, well, nice. Okay. So when we get to the how do I, we often couch our sentence with a suggestion. Well, you might want to, or something to think about is, and most, actually all of us, come on now, have this thing inside of us called pride. And as we started our conversation off earlier in the evening, my way, right? Well, you're telling me to do a different way. My way is wrong. No, my way is right. I just need to tweak it a little bit. And what happens when you make a suggestion to somebody, your daughter, your husband, your friend, or somebody worse makes a suggestion to you? We instantly say, well, I don't know, it works for you, but it probably won't work for me. And we use this system of justification for why what they're saying is no good. Right? So we gotta learn how to put that one down.
But we do, a person of my age teaching kids of today, if I don't change, it's not gonna work.
And I'm not,
they're totally different than.
I agree.
They used it like that, but that's not everything.
Oh, I guess.
I got veteran teachers that are still using overhead projectors.
Geez, I thought those were like illegal.
I'm joking, but pretty much. They don't want to use the .cam or whatever, ladybug, jitterbug, whatever.
Right.
Okay, that's the first thing. Is that sometimes you need to tell your teacher you must blah 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 blah. So in your case, you need to shape up or they're going to ship you out. That's exactly
Nice, Christina.
Do you want to work here next year?
That's still too
right?
nice.
And that may be,
That's still too nice.
you will turn your grades in on Friday, or the principal's going to find out, and you're going to, right? That's the thing. You got to turn your grades in. Okay? You will give the final and grade it and put it in the book. Right? There are times when you need to tell the teacher what to do. The second thing, and I don't say this very often, but I do say it and as a way of being important. Not everybody that comes to us is meant to be a teacher.
Or to be at your site.
Well, okay, but very little. You're not meant to be a junior high teacher. Let's put up for high school or something. But let's be honest.
It's true.
There are teachers on your campus that you think, why in the world did you ever become a teacher? You hate kids.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
There are some.
It is hard.
Kids, they don't like the peers, and they come to the classroom at 6 in the morning, they close the door, they lock it, and they never come out. Why do you come here? What do you like about it?
Yeah, school would be great without all these kids, right? Okay, what if you were talking to that teacher when they were brand new, and you could save a lot of grief with kids?
Sometimes that teacher's pretty cocky and thinks pretty highly of themselves, and I had one like that. And she ended up leaving. She stayed, but she had some cojones. She went all the way to the district office. I was like, ooh, hello.
Right? Well, that's that pride kicking in because we're not being reflective people. Listen, I've told you before, there are two kinds of people. Those that look in a mirror and those that look through a window. And those that look through a window blame all of the problems on something or someone else. And those that look in a mirror say, how can I change this? How can I change my instructional environment so that kids don't get out of their chair without asking for permission? How can I change my lesson plans so that my kids are more engaged? How do I get a better, authentic, formative assessment so that when I run the summative assessment, the scores are higher? How do I help kids get from short-term memory to long-term memory? Because they're fooling me with their short-term memory. Sometimes we have to have this honest conversation, and it's not easy. But that's part of the credentialing process, is to help teachers kind of come to the realization that, oh honey, I don't think this is for you.
And some of the mainstreaming children that we have, it's getting worse. Behaviors are worse and worse. say, like, and our bags of tricks are running out.
Right, and overstuffed classrooms and and part of the issues are our schools are overcrowded. There's not enough space, and so for kids that have anxiety over spatial issues, causes them to be afraid, and they act out. We don't even recognize that, but our schools weren't designed for the amount of students that we're trying to plug in. I mean, look at Washington and how many lunch periods they have to have, and how many, they start some of those lunches at 10:30, right? Because they don't have a big enough cafeteria. They don't have enough staff bathrooms, let alone student bathrooms. Parking. Y'all have any parking issues at your sites?
Millview.
And Millview was at what? 1,100 a couple of years ago?
Yeah, now it's
Yeah.
like 800.
And it's still too many, right? How many schools have portables on their sites? Heck, we got Webster with brand new schoolish, I think of it is, and they've got 15 portables back there, 20. That's well, we have portables on every site in Madera Unified. Every site, except for Rose. I don't think Rose has any portables yet.
We have one.
Oh, we have one.
Preschool. But some of them, some sites have to have, I wanna say, they have to have one for some, is it funding or something? I don't know, we do have one, preschool's in a portable.
Is that Melinda Arbala?
Yeah.
It says you can only keep them so long, because it's way past their dates.
The ones at Madera High are like.
There's holes in the floor.
Yeah. Oh, they're
You got one too?
I got a lump right here.
Might be a
Careful now.
I spent my whole life in a portable and no problems. I'm good to go. All right. What is the solution? So now we've got them to reflect. And they asked, how do we help them now? What are some of the tools that we have in our tool chest?
Observations.
All right, so we can tell them.
No, we don't wanna tell them.
Sometimes you have to, but okay, what else?
Observations.
See it. And what is interesting is if we can see it with our own students in another classroom. Most of the time that works, right? Having a class that's disruptive, let me take you around and show you your students in other classes and they're behaving. Okay, how did they do that? Aha, they asked the how do I question and I can answer that. I did have one teacher at a middle school in which it was so bad that we put a mirror above the Promethean board because when she would turn her back, there was all kinds of chaos going on. Eventually, the kids broke the mirror. They were cutting the cords to a computer, cutting the cords to a telephone. They were peeling the wallpaper off the portable walls. They were peeling it off. I mean, it was crazy, right? And so we took her around as one of our strategies to help her see what was going on. And she saw those kids that were in her class and causing her problems behaving. And she walked away not with, well, how do I do that? She walked away with, those brats, they behave for that other teacher, but they won't behave for me. Is there any change that's going to take place with her? No. And one of the few teachers that we actually let go in March and not even wait till the end of the year. We knew at Christmas time it would better have a sub in there than a permanent teacher, but our board didn't feel it was right to pay somebody to do nothing. I don't know, sometimes it can make a bad choice.
I mean, one thing that mine was having a hard time with was like evidence. Like as I'm looking through his journal, it's like the evidence section is blank. Or like one or two sentences. So I had him take a picture of the list you gave us of things they can use for evidence. Have you done any professional development? No. Have you went to any classes? No. Have you done any readings? No. And I'm like, there are some books. Do any of them look interesting? Would you like to read through any of them? So we took a couple of them, but we're sitting on the round table.
Yeah.
Maybe that time's passed.
Most of us are going to understand that learning how to be a teacher is a lot more than just going to school and doing teaching. We tell them at orientation it takes 5 years to learn this job. Well, if there's some learning involved, there's probably some research that goes with it.
Some people are medicated.
There are some teachers that are beyond our ability and scope to help. And at some point we have to remember they're a grown-ass adult. They're going to have to take on the responsibilities of being an adult. Mama's not going to come in and clean their room for them this time. They're just not going to get a paycheck and health insurance and retirement. And it's harder to get a job now if you don't have good references. I mean, 2-3 years ago, if you had a credential, we didn't care how bad you were, they would get hired. Now, the market's changing a little bit. There's enough of a pool that we can look at somebody that's been fired and wonder why, and then talk to the references, and they're hedging their bets, and we can say, nope, we're not gonna hire this. So hopefully, better candidates are coming along. We can tell them to do this, we can see it, what else can we do? We can demonstrate it. Did I spell that right? I'm the world's worst speller. I've always known that. And so, can you model for them in their class? Right? I can't. I'm too ugly, but y'all can. But you can demonstrate. You can do a mini lesson in their class. They can come and observe you in your class. And then what else? Well, all the other research that we're doing, we can help them implement changes from their PD, or we can help them read and understand what's going on. Now, what happens if there are multiple things that you want to see changed? Is that going to be good? All right. Now, what do we have to do though? If there's multiple things we have to change, we have to prioritize. Okay, so I'll give you an example of, I read this evaluation, and the teacher, veteran teacher, got ripped on 5 of the 7 standards on their evaluation. Wow. Now they're in mandatory park. And I'm thinking, oh my, I could, and as I'm reading through this, I could make a mental list of 15 things that this teacher needed to do. And I'm thinking, if I tell this teacher there are 15 things you will do between now and the end of the year, do you think any of them are going to get done? No.
Are they close to retirement?
No. About 10 years on the job. So I looked at this and said, you know what? It would have looked like, and I talked to administration afterwards, it looks like you're not planning very well for your classes. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and you're missing all kinds of marks, and your kids are off task because they're not engaged, and your assessment data is poor because you're not assessing what needs to be assessed. And I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to concentrate on writing lesson plans and then executing those lesson plans. That's all we're going to work on. Now, in those lesson plans, I told her I want to see multiple strategies for EL students. I want to see frequent checking for understanding. I want to see data-driven groups. Okay, if you're going to have groups in your classroom for cooperative learning, why is Charlie sitting next to Larry? You need to be able to tell me why. We want to know what graphic organizers you're going to use, what kind of activities you're going to do. And I said you probably need to write it out in such a way that it says, the first 15 minutes we're doing this, the next 10 minutes we're doing this, the next 10 minutes we're doing this. Tie it to the standards. It has to be tied to the standards. And when I finally finished describing what I wanted, the teacher began to get kind of overwhelmed because she realized I was asking for a lot.
But it is a lot.
But y'all are already doing that.
The new lesson plans that these students have to do are several pages long.
I'm not asking her to do that much, but I want her to not just drive into work going, what am I going to do today? I hope there's something on the photocopy machine I can borrow.
No.
And she has a class that has 3 different, it's the same subject but 3 different levels, but she was doing the same thing in all 3 classes. And there was no rhyme or reason as to why her kids were grouped the way they were. And like I said, the data was missing or inaccurate or poor. And but we didn't even make a change here, or you're gonna lose your job. What am I gonna make a change? You're gonna write lesson plans.
Did she wanna be there?
Yeah. Everybody wants their job, at least, well, most people do. She wants to keep her job. So we're gonna write lesson plans, and then she says, I said to her, when do you want them due? And she says, how about Monday morning? And I said, nope, that's what I do to teachers I want to fire. Because I know that if I have them due at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, you're going to quote unquote do them over the weekend, and that will work for about 2 weeks, and then something's going to happen and you won't get it done. That's how we trick teachers into getting them fired. We're not going to do that. You can have them due on Thursday or Friday at 5, or Tuesday or Wednesday, at 5, but I'm not going to have them due at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, because I know you will fail at that. And we're not going to set you up. I want her to understand, we're not trying to catch you and set you up for failure. We're trying to set you up to succeed. And so this is what we're going to do. And she bought into it. One big, huge change. Okay, now that's the next question. I'm asking for a lot. It's a big ask. Change the way you prepare for class. One thing I'm asking for is lesson plans, but even that in itself is overwhelming. Why? It's a lot. How do we break this? So you're the consulting teacher on this one. You're the mentor. You just heard me tell this teacher, you got to write lesson plans. How are you going to break this to her so she can manage it? How are you going to do it? Talk about it in your table groups.
Mine's easy because we're in the same grade level, so we do it together. So we're doing the same thing. It's just now it's like lesson planning for guided reading groups, and how does that look? And those are all different depending on who your kids are.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah, she's so organized.
Like you said, what activity, what thinking map, what sentence framework, what standards. At what point? You say, okay, when am I going to know?
And I put it in my lesson book, but they don't do it.
Like an evaluation type of thing.
Yeah, other than my guided reading groups where I have, what are my words, what am I going to have them build, for, so we do all the stuff that you do prior to teaching a lesson.
What are you going to do?
But not for every subject. So,
Okay, so you're gonna work
Give them a schedule.
I can see for a week, but not for a day.
Well, who has somebody that's at a different grade level? Are you guys all
Can't say that.
way different?
Because I'm special ed, so one teacher with a special day class, one RSP, and then I'm
Can't.
preschool.
And you
So
shouldn't take that on. Neither one of you guys should take that on.
and I've done both of those jobs before. It makes the planning process, it makes it hard because I can't have them come
We're in the same boat. We're not doing the same thing.
See, and we have that 15-day plan going on with our math, so we're doing our 15-day plan there, and then we're doing our plan to, yeah, it's just a lot. I don't know what I would do if I was there. They're a different boat as the other person when you're trying to plan.
My niece works at a charter school.
So then they took that strategies go across. But it not naturally gets really well once by the end of the week. No.
And I
Especially the management.
Because I work with I'm at an elementary school. All five. And so then she went to
I have one that's
and then I go in there, and then I go in there, and I'm not going to find that. So does,
no matter what age they are, and I encourage them when they first start. How they should do it.
So she's back in our room twice this week. Right.
He's
Why is he that? Tell us.
See, I'm 10 feet tall. I
it
so,
seems.
but,
I don't think, I don't know.
What,
anyhow,
just in
yeah.
general, like.
I mean, I just
And they have to
I
learn
feel
that
like
they have to be the
like,
adults.
I've been out of there for 5 years.
Mine are both in really
Try not to
good
shift
teams.
but
They
then
do all their lesson plans
Like you said,
with their grade level. And
Yeah.
like David on Wednesdays, we're able to be together, and so that's actually good.
I get the feeling that was a lot.
And it's because
So, and I've heard
I mean,
through the
she's
grapevine,
never
you're a
like, just
whole
like
new
little
boss.
comments here and there that I heard, like, I just don't think they're like,
And
and
yeah,
yeah,
so
I know that
Teachers are doing it, supposed to do it, different things, it's meant to be, I don't know.
But at least you could tell them what you expect.
and I mean,
that's
they're,
why we're seeing
yeah, I mean, she's never said like, oh, I don't like, but I just get that feeling that she doesn't love them.
this is 7th grade.
Well, I don't, I think there's,
So,
I know people give like the one time something
this little sheet crack in the windshield.
on
So
like,
hopefully the next 2 or 3
that everybody really bought into it, I'm not like all, I'm not saying that, like teachers.
No, because it was always about especially that first had a different feel on how it's done, and it's not.
And the emotion, yeah, they're overwhelmed. Like one of mine is getting married this year. And so she's planning a wedding next year. And trying to finish all of this up. And it's just, it's like, kind of remarrying. They weren't concerned.
I think so, I think they're a little bit hesitant.
But then there's
For mine, it's trying to have her 6 months with the Rika.
oh, they're so excited about it.
She's failed the Rika 8 times.
Isn't that what you told us about it?
I do the Rika.
Michelle's not gonna say, oh, all these people are next to that.
What's your name? True. Oh, okay, well, I can't. Oh, well, she's the one that she is most amazing.
We talked about it, because I was on the Sabbath last year, and I met her
And I've seen her in pain, and I've
how
watched
it's
her,
gonna
and
get
she
pushed
has
out to
such,
the
I
staff
think it's testing.
is not.
Alright guys, what we come up with?
She's looking at the video.
If we have one big huge thing we want to change,
No,
how do we have it?
I'm against that, I'm compromising. I don't like it.
Sorry, Steve.
How do we want to change it? One big huge thing we need to change, what do we do? Okay, so we can be an example, or show them examples, or spoon feed them, enable them for a little bit, show them, here's my lesson plan for next week. Why don't you just use it, and then we'll do it? Okay, good, what else? Okay, we can chunk it, we can put it in steps.
Yeah, chunks.
Good, what else?
Do it together.
Do it together, so I do, we do, you do it. Okay, good. Scaffold it, maybe we give them a template, a lesson plan template. Okay, make sure you include all these things. Right? All right, breaking them down step by step really does help with making changes. Okay. The last thought I have is, before I get to our final thoughts, is how do we get teachers to reflect? How do we get them to reflect?
Journals.
Journals are good. Yeah, they're journals that they're supposed to be doing for me. What else?
Stacey had a good question. What would you do differently? So it gives them an opportunity to think about, okay, what did not go as planned or as I desired? How would I change it?
That's a good idea, and that's one of the things I'm trying in my own personal life. In that, is she dying? Remember that commercial? We're dying.
No. It wants me to update.
Yeah, does everybody have, oh, you guys all have apples, don't you?
I don't
My school
understand
gets
why
Dell.
in one district we are two different. It doesn't make any sense.
Change.
Yes.
Don't give me an apple, I'll throw it through the window, so.
The Dells don't wanna do updates though. That's what you're telling us. I wanna do an update, but I don't wanna do an update. Anyway,
Alright,
sorry.
so, one of the things that I'm looking at is trying to be reflective in my own life and speaking the truth. Okay? Can we speak the truth, but in such a way that it's like really painful to hear? Like, if my wife comes and says, "Does this look good on me?"
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
You always look at him. That's
Oh heck no, girl, get that thing off. That makes you look like you belong on the street. That would hurt if I said something like that, right? But on the other hand, does she expect an honest response? You know, Rihanna, is this tie okay? No, honey, it doesn't really go well with. Why don't you try this one? Okay, my feelings aren't hurt. But if she goes, are you stupid? Why would you ever put that tie on? I'm not going to ask her again. There's a way to respond, right? So we have to be able to speak the truth because they may not hear it from someone else, right? We need to be able to tell them the truth in a way that's loving. But we also need to be helping them to reflect. And so I'm thinking about that, like I said, in my own life. And what I heard somebody say, well, how did that work out for you, right? How did that go?
What would you do differently?
What would you do differently? So, you ever had a discussion with somebody you really care about that went south?
Oh, yeah.
No, right, Duncan, never?
Wait.
Did you ever have a discussion with somebody that you really care about, but it went south? That the conversation went. And as a man, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I speak to the other two guys, but I know that sometimes when I'm talking to my wife, that I know what I'm saying is correct and needs to be said, but the tone of voice and the facial inflection are incorrect. Therefore, the message is incorrect.
Stop, you're not listening to me. Sorry. Stop talking. It's my turn to talk. Yeah.
Over and done with, right? If somebody says,
you know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about. Whoa. Okay. So, y'all ever had a conversation together where he starts saying something and you're like, oh, heck no, I'm not listening to this. And so I started reflecting and thinking, all right, how could I do this better? And the thing that I'm working on, and I wish I had more successes, I'm still working on it, but the one thing I'm working on is use my words to build up, not tear down. Can I say this in a way that builds her up and not tear her down? And it takes what? Effort on my part. And it takes more thinking on my part. And what it really takes is for me to shut my mouth for a few minutes so that my brain can kind of process it. One thing I have learned is this. I will say I have more success with this now. When I feel my blood boiling, I just simply stop talking.
And then the
because I don't
communicating.
Well, I can
There's
wait.
a whole book on that.
I
when
can
the
say.
man stops and walks away.
Let me come back to you on that one because right now I'm gonna say something that I'm gonna apologize for. I don't want to do that. I found that you can't bring words back once they're out. They're done. You can't. No amount of apology makes it better. But I don't have to apologize for words that are not said. I might say, I'm sorry I had a bad attitude. I'm sorry I was upset. But I went away, I prayed about it, talked about it, and think about it, and now here's what I want to tell you. And I can try to use words that build up instead of tear down. Boy, it works. Now all of a sudden my message is being heard. And I know that before I was right and it needed to be said, but because my tone of voice especially, I find that Rihanna and I have really that dynamic of man language and woman language, and I haven't figured it all out yet. I mean, two guys can talk to each other and just cut to the chase. And, it's even say something stupid, really bad, like, you blankety blank, what the heck are you thinking? Right? Oh, I don't know. And we right? And we don't take offense to that. But if I go to my wife and go, you blankety blank, what are you thinking?
Well, and it changes as we age. We could handle things differently when we were younger. As we get older, it's a little bit more sensitive.
I will tell you that I'm more mellow now than I was in my 20s and 30s. And my ability to control my temper is better. And I'm learning that what I would have gotten excited about a couple of years ago, or like, whatever, it's not a big deal. Right? It's, all right, you left your shoes there, you do something about your shoes. Whereas before I might have thrown them in the pool.
No, you put them under his pillow, or her pillow.
All right. We are almost done. I hope you're not disappointed. That will end at 6 o'clock.
No.
Change. Any change causes fear. Why is it important to give our teachers permission to fail? Talk about that in your groups.
Yeah. It's different kids.
You learn from your failures. I think Susie's get better because you have those
high expectations.
It's the 57 recipe.
And for
I mean, that's what makes her successful, but she,
They look at us and say, we're so many years ahead of them in our career. Yesterday,
Messed me forward.
like, there was a time last year or this year, she was super sick. Oh, no, it was last year. She was sick. Yeah, she was sick last year. Her daughter was graduating. Family was coming in at the end of the year. I go,
If you were perfect and never made a mistake, do you have anything you needed to learn? No. We only learn by what? Okay, and here's the difference, right? If Diane goes tomorrow with this great idea for to build a fire, Jack London, trying to help them understand the setting and how cold it is, and she gives them some flint and steel, and we're going to start a fire outside. And the kids can't do it; they can't get a fire going. And she goes home, and does she cry about it? Oh, my lesson didn't work today. Or does she drive home in a car laughing? Oh, that didn't work. I'll try something else tomorrow.
Right.
Right? She would probably be the one that laughed it off and said, that didn't work.
Okay, I
I'll try
had
something else.
a professor in college who used to say, well, that went over like a turd in a punch bowl. Didn't go so well.
It didn't go so well. And we as veteran teachers, what do? Does it knock your confidence? No.
You win some, you lose some.
Change your experience at the secondary
Well,
level.
I have seniors in a way, which is, of course, but their prefrontal cortex is not together yet. But still, all the same, I go, sorry kids, this has sucked today. We'll try this again tomorrow.
No skin
And
on
I
your nose.
apologize. I say, I'm so sorry, guys. This just not work.
I think your kids,
Oh, yeah,
the little
sure.
ones appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm
you
sorry,
know?
guys.
All right, put it away. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
This isn't working.
What does a new teacher do? It can destroy their confidence. So I think it's important that we share our defeats as well as our victories with our beginning teachers, and let them know it's only by figuring this out, by making some mistakes, that you're gonna soar. All right. So we need to give our beginning teachers permission to fail. Do they feel like they have that permission from admin?
Depends who the admin is.
And remind them never to do something new on evaluation day. That's still happening. You want to try to wow and dazzle them, and no. Old and boring and tried and true.
Except that that might not work with the way they're evaluating us now.
But I mean, don't try new ones.
All right, number 2. As we saw in the video, change is exhausting. How can we help? Change is exhausting. How can we help?
Isn't that when we talked about prioritizing?
Prioritizing? Okay, let's just work on one thing. Good. What else? Chunking it? What else? What helps you when you're trying to make a change?
Writing it down.
Yeah, a little bit.
But okay, so if somebody else is trying to help you make a change, what do you want from them?
I want patience and time to
Encouragement.
practice. I need to be able to come here.
You can do it. We can do it together. You're doing great. So y'all ever tried something and you gave up on it?
It's just do this. Do that.
Anybody try anything? My wife and I signed up for Planet Fitness in January 2017. And I was doing great until spring break. And that interrupted our rhythm. We were getting up at 4:45 and showing up at the gym at 5. So that we had evening time for family afterwards. And I have all these meetings, there's no way. And so yeah, for great until spring break. And then that was the end of that. She's kept it up, and kept on going, and but I couldn't. I just once that broke. The other thing is diets, right? So I was in July. I will tell you this: my father currently is in San Joaquin rehab. Has been there for 2 weeks and has another week to go because he spent 5 days at St. Agnes because he has his kidneys were failing. And when you're 78 and you're not feeling good for about a month, you don't do much, and then you go to the hospital and lay in a bed for 5 days, you lose all your strength. I mean, he's got to learn how to walk all over. Okay. But why is he in the situation that he's in? He's carried an extra 100 pounds for most of his life. So obesity causes high blood pressure. High blood pressure causes your muscles in your heart, they're strong, they can squish, but they can't relax. So it's like when you're out of breath and you can, but you can't get enough air. It's almost like the heart, it won't open up enough. It'll squeeze, but it won't open up. That causes fluids to back up. How do you take care of the fluids? You put them on a diuretic like Lasix, but it's hard on your kidneys. What does the other issue that weight has caused is diabetes. So he's had type 2 diabetes for, I'm going to think 30 years, well 20 years anyway. And so it affects, he's got eye problems, he's got kidney problems because of diabetes. So if I give him Lasix to get rid of the fluid, it affects his kidneys that are already damaged due to diabetes. But if I don't take care of the fluid, then it causes his heart to not work. You see where we're at here? All because what? He had 100 pounds too much weight. He had a knee replacement surgery 15 years ago, but he never rehabbed it right because he was 100 pounds too heavy and it hurt, it was hard. 100 pounds. All it takes probably is 50, but he was 100 pounds. He's right now today, he's at like 285. In July, I stepped on the scale at 267. Uh-oh. And I'm looking at my dad, and my wife is 12 years younger than me, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do at 77? And she says, what do you want to do today? And I pick up the remote and go, click. At 65, man, you want to go. Let's get it on. And like your husband, 77, sitting in the chair. Heck no, I love her too much. I can't do that to her, so got to lose weight. So we went back to restricting calories. And that worked until it didn't.
Until Christmas time. Christmas, New Year.
She went from 267, whatever it was, to 230. Okay, on counting calories. All right, but that's not working anymore, so now we're going to try the next thing. And the next thing is keto. No carbs, or 20 carbs or less a day. And I will tell you that honestly it's worked. I've gotten down 230, I'm now 219. So white weight's coming off. And there's at least I'm not hungry. Until today, I don't know what. I had eggs for breakfast. I had meat with butter and sour cream and salsa for lunch. It tasted like stroganoff, right? But this afternoon I'm hungry. I'm passing out all this candy to y'all, and I'm like,
I know, I'm trying too, not to eat it.
and the crackers, I put them in the bowl. So I slammed a Diet Pepsi to kind of fill some space up, and then I found you can eat dark chocolate. So I've had a couple of pieces of dark chocolate, and I have another meeting to go to. I won't be able to eat dinner till 9 o'clock.
There's a problem right there.
But it's hard to make this change and keep it going. So what do I need? I need some data. Do I get data? Yes. I had to go buy a new belt. I had to go buy new pants, right? And I have my wife that's encouraging me, right? You look great. I can feel the difference. I can see the difference. We can do the same for our teachers. Throw some data. Look at the scores. They're going up. Hey, look, your room's cleaner. You didn't even know it, but you put some new routines in and your room is cleaner, right? Your room is, it looks better, or whatever, okay? That encouragement, you know what's weird? Is that even today, if we put stickers on your work, you would dig it?
My seniors.
You would, but I don't know about you.
That's probably true.
Your seniors still dig stickers.
I got a sticker. Okay, 18-year-old going to college next year.
Change is exhausting. We need lots of support and encouragement. Last, too much change is overwhelming. What is the solution? And we kind of looked at that a little more in depth already. But if you're looking at 15 things on your evaluation you have to change, you're going to lose your job. you might just walk out the door and forget about it. So it's important to help with scaffold and examples, and especially chunking and breaking it down in the steps that you can manage. Help your teachers make those changes they need to make. We should have had that Michael Jackson song, right? Change. Evaluation is on your agenda, and as soon as you finish your eval, you're free to go. Thanks, guys.
Could I ask you or anybody else in the room, we've had a lot of reader issues, grading not coming back in a timely manner, things the teachers not getting scores on things, and then with no feedback.
Let me have a meeting with my readers and us, because it's been brought up, so I will address that.
Okay, thank you.
So for the very first time, my teacher received that she was up to date. I then immediately text her, does this mean that you've never done what you're supposed to be doing all along?
Oh, no.
And she got worried too, because is that they're supposed to be sending out that you're up to date every time?
No, that meeting particularly just took it upon themselves to tell you that. So.
It's just causing a lot of stress on my teachers.
Let me address that with the readers.
Yeah, you've got the same problem.
Yeah.
Did I meet you? Yeah. Good to know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if
And this thing, can you go up like this to it?
Do it to switch here.
Oh.
But you need a.
What do you have to have?
Just use your camera.
Yeah, now you
Your
can see the
camera without a.
Yeah.